Hello Army, welcome back to my channel. If you thought we'd already covered every possible kind of official recognition BTS could receive throughout this incredible comeback year, get ready, because today we're talking about something genuinely unprecedented. Maryland's own Governor, Wes Moore, personally welcomed BTS to Baltimore ahead of their two-night stadium run, and this specific moment represents a genuinely significant example of just how far this group's cultural and political recognition has extended, even reaching the level of official state government acknowledgement. Let's break down exactly what happened, who Governor Moore actually is, and why this particular welcome carries so much genuine weight within the broader story of BTS's ongoing American touring presence. So let's start with the concert dates themselves, because that's genuinely useful information if you're planning on attending or simply following along with this story. BTS is performing 2 consecutive nights at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, on Monday, August 10th, and Tuesday, August 11th, both shows beginning at 8 p.m. This continues the group's extensive American touring leg, following their previous stops at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey and Gillette Stadium in Massachusetts, which we've covered extensively on this channel already. Let's talk about the actual moment that's brought us here today. On August 9th, just ahead of this 2-night Baltimore stop, Governor Wes Moore posted a direct welcome message specifically addressed to BTS through his official social media channels, writing simply and warmly, "Welcome to Baltimore," tagging the group's official account directly. This wasn't some vague, general acknowledgement buried within a broader post about local events happening around the state. This was a direct, personal welcome, coming from the sitting governor of an entire American state, specifically extended to this group ahead of their arrival in his state's largest city. Let's think about why this particular gesture carries such genuine significance within the broader context of everything we've documented throughout this entire touring cycle. We're talking about the actual, sitting governor of Maryland, someone occupying one of the most significant political positions within American state government, taking the time to personally and publicly welcome a musical group to his state. This represents a genuinely different category of recognition compared to media coverage, brand partnerships, or even fan enthusiasm, however significant those other forms of recognition have already proven throughout this remarkable year. Let's talk a bit about who Governor Wes Moore actually is, because understanding his background helps contextualize just how significant this specific gesture really was. Wes Moore became the 63rd governor of Maryland back in January 2023, making history as the state's first African-American governor. He's a member of the Democratic Party who has generally governed as a political moderate throughout his time in office, and he's been involved in numerous significant state initiatives, including efforts around housing development, transportation infrastructure, and public safety. He's also currently serving as chair of the National Governors Association, placing him in a genuinely prominent leadership position among his fellow state governors across the entire country. Let's think about what it means specifically that someone holding this level of political prominence and responsibility took the time to personally acknowledge and welcome BTS to his state. This isn't simply a minor, forgettable social media post from a low-profile local official. This is coming from someone who chairs the National Governors Association, someone whose voice and public statements carry genuine weight within American political and civic discourse more broadly. Let's talk about the specific tone and content of his welcome message, because the warmth and genuine enthusiasm behind it really stood out to fans who encountered this post. Rather than delivering some generic, formal statement, his message came across as genuinely warm and welcoming, expressing what many fans described as authentic enthusiasm for both the band and their global fan base. This wasn't a governor simply going through the motions of acknowledging a major event happening in his state. This felt like a genuine expression of excitement and appreciation for what BTS's visit meant for Baltimore specifically. Let's also touch on the broader media coverage this welcome generated, because it wasn't simply confined to the governor's own social media following. This moment was specifically covered by CBS Baltimore, one of the region's major local news outlets, as part of their broader coverage of BTS's arrival and the significant logistical preparations the city was making ahead of these 2 major stadium shows. Having this level of mainstream local news coverage specifically highlight the governor's welcome message adds genuine additional weight and visibility to this particular gesture, ensuring it reached audiences well beyond just BTS's already dedicated fan base. Let's think about the practical context surrounding this entire Baltimore stop, because the scale of preparation involved genuinely illustrates just how significant this particular tour stop has become for the city and state more broadly. Local transportation officials specifically warned residents and visitors to expect significant traffic changes, limited parking, and increased pedestrian and vehicle activity throughout the downtown area during both concert nights. The Baltimore City Department of Transportation specifically encouraged anyone traveling downtown to allow extra time and consider using public transportation options, including MTA-marked trains, light rail, metro subway, local bus routes, and the city's free Charm City Circulator service. Let's also touch on the specific traffic guidance provided for those driving into the area, because it further illustrates just how significant an impact this two-night stadium run is expected to have on the broader Baltimore metropolitan area. The State Highway Administration specifically advised fans traveling northbound on Interstate 95 to use exit 53 to reach M&T Bank Stadium, while specifically warning drivers to avoid exit 52 from Interstate 95 and the Baltimore-Washington Parkway in order to help minimize significant delays throughout this two-day period. Let's think about what this level of official municipal and state preparation actually reveals about the scale of impact BTS's visit is expected to have on the city. When local transportation authorities are issuing specific, detailed guidance about road closures, alternate routes, and public transit recommendations spanning multiple days, that reflects a genuine, substantial anticipated impact on the city's everyday infrastructure and traffic patterns, the kind of impact typically associated with major sporting events or significant civic gatherings, rather than simply a standard touring concert stop. Let's also spend some time discussing the broader significance of this specific gesture within the context of everything else we've documented throughout this entire comeback year regarding BTS's expanding recognition across completely different sectors of American public life. We've talked extensively about their historic World Cup final halftime show appearance, about various individual brand partnerships, about specific praise from major American media outlets like Billboard and the Boston Globe, and about genuine transformation stories from previously skeptical writers at publications like Vogue. This gubernatorial welcome adds an entirely new dimension to that already comprehensive pattern of recognition, extending into the realm of official state government acknowledgement. Let's think about why this specific kind of political recognition matters so much within the broader cultural conversation surrounding this group's American touring presence. When elected officials at this level of prominence specifically choose to publicly acknowledge and welcome an international musical act, it sends a genuinely significant signal about how mainstream and culturally significant that act has become within broader American civic life. This isn't simply about entertainment industry recognition or fan enthusiasm anymore. This represents genuine acknowledgement from official government leadership that this group's presence carries meaningful economic and cultural significance for their state. Let's also touch on the specific economic dimension underlying this kind of political welcome, because state and local governments genuinely benefit from major touring events like this one in tangible, measurable ways. 2 consecutive nights of stadium shows at this scale bring substantial economic activity to the host city and surrounding region, from hotel bookings, to restaurant and retail spending, to increased tourism activity more broadly. Given that context, it makes considerable practical sense that a governor would want to specifically and publicly welcome an event generating this level of economic activity within his state, beyond just the genuine cultural enthusiasm that also appears to have factored into this specific gesture. Let's think about how this specific moment fits within the broader pattern we've observed throughout this extensive American touring leg of BTS, specifically integrating themselves into the civic and cultural fabric of each host city they visit, rather than simply treating these stops as isolated concert dates disconnected from their broader local context. We've discussed previously how the New York stop specifically included extensive citywide activation programming, transforming Manhattan into this comprehensive, immersive fan experience extending well beyond just the actual concert venue itself. This Baltimore stop, now including this genuine political acknowledgement from the state's sitting governor, continues that broader pattern of meaningful civic integration throughout this touring cycle. Let's also spend some time thinking about what this specific gesture might mean for how BTS, and by extension, Jimin specifically as one of the group's most individually recognized members throughout this comeback year, continues to be perceived within broader American political and civic circles moving forward. Having this level of official government acknowledgement adds genuine additional legitimacy and mainstream recognition to everything we've already documented regarding this group's expanding cultural footprint throughout American society more broadly. Let's think about the broader significance of Governor more specifically choosing to highlight this welcome through his own personal social media channels, rather than simply having some lower-level state official or tourism department handle this kind of acknowledgement. Choosing to personally attach his own name and voice to this welcome message, rather than delegating it to some other official channel, suggests genuine personal enthusiasm and investment in this moment, beyond just fulfilling some perceived political or economic obligation to acknowledge a major event happening within his state. Let's also touch on the broader implications of this kind of bipartisan, cross-political appeal that BTS seems to have achieved throughout their career, given that this specific welcome came from a Democratic governor, while we've previously discussed other instances of political and civic recognition from officials across different points on the political spectrum throughout this group's extensive touring history. This kind of broad, cross-partisan appeal speaks to something genuinely significant about how thoroughly this group has managed to transcend typical political divisions, achieving recognition and enthusiasm from officials regardless of their specific political affiliations or ideological positioning. Let's think about what this specific Baltimore stop, combined with this genuine gubernatorial welcome, might mean for the broader legacy and lasting impact of this entire American touring leg, once this tour eventually concludes and fans look back on everything that happened throughout this remarkable comeback year. Moments like this one, where official government leadership specifically and publicly acknowledges the group's arrival and significance, likely represent some of the more historically significant data points within the broader story of BTS's continued expansion into mainstream American cultural and civic life. Let's also spend some time discussing how this kind of official recognition might influence how other cities and states approach BTS's future touring stops, given that this tour still has additional American dates remaining before eventually moving on to other international destinations. If this pattern of official civic welcome and acknowledgement continues generating this level of positive media coverage and public goodwill, it wouldn't be surprising to see similar gestures from officials in other cities and states as this tour continues making its way through its remaining schedule. Let's think about the broader emotional significance this kind of official welcome likely carries for fans specifically, beyond just the general cultural and political significance we've been discussing throughout this video. There's something genuinely meaningful about watching a group you've supported through years of ups and downs receive this level of official, mainstream government acknowledgement, representing this tangible validation that extends well beyond just entertainment industry metrics or fan enthusiasm into genuine civic and political recognition. Let's also touch on what this specific moment reveals about the broader trajectory of BTS's cultural significance throughout this particular comeback era, following their return from military service and their subsequent, remarkably successful return to large-scale international touring. Each individual milestone we've documented throughout this entire year, from the World Cup performance, to major media recognition, to now this genuine political acknowledgement from a sitting state governor, continues building toward this increasingly comprehensive picture of just how significant and multifaceted this group's cultural impact has become during this particular chapter of their career. Let's think about the practical logistics still ahead for fans planning on attending either of these Baltimore shows, given everything we've discussed regarding the significant traffic and transportation considerations involved. With shows scheduled for both August 10th and August 11th, both beginning at 8 p.m., fans attending either night should genuinely plan for those transportation challenges we discussed earlier, whether that means using public transit options like the MARC train or light rail, or planning specifically around those recommended highway exits if driving into the downtown Baltimore area. Let's also spend some time thinking about what kind of additional content and coverage we're likely to see emerging from this Baltimore stop over the coming days, given the pattern we've observed throughout this entire touring cycle of major stops generating significant social media attention and detailed fan documentation. Given how much positive attention this gubernatorial welcome has already generated, combined with whatever specific performance highlights and individual moments emerge from the actual concerts themselves across both nights, it's reasonable to expect this Baltimore stop to generate its own substantial collection of memorable content and discussion points, joining the already extensive collection of highlights we've documented from previous stops throughout this remarkable American touring leg. Let's wrap up by recapping everything we've discussed today regarding this genuinely significant moment of official political recognition. Ahead of BTS's two-night stadium run at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, scheduled for August 10th and 11th, Maryland Governor Wes Moore personally and publicly welcomed the group to his state, posting a warm, direct message through his official social media channels. This gesture, coming from someone holding one of American state government's most significant leadership positions and currently serving as chair of the National Governors Association, represents a genuinely meaningful example of official political acknowledgement, extending well beyond typical entertainment industry recognition into the realm of genuine civic and governmental welcome. This moment arrives alongside extensive local preparation for the significant traffic and logistical impact these two major stadium shows are expected to have on the broader Baltimore metropolitan area, further underscoring just how significant this touring stop has become for the city and state more broadly. This entire story really does illustrate something genuinely meaningful about the continued, expanding scope of BTS's cultural and civic significance throughout this remarkable comeback era, extending now into genuine official government recognition at the state level. It's exactly this kind of comprehensive, multifaceted recognition, spanning entertainment industry acclaim, mainstream media coverage, individual member achievements, and now genuine political acknowledgement, that continues demonstrating just how significant and far-reaching this group's cultural impact has become throughout this particular chapter of their career. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way through. If you enjoyed this breakdown of Governor Moore's welcome message ahead of BTS's Baltimore concerts, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update like this one in the future. Drop a comment down below letting me know what you think about this level of official political recognition, and if you're planning on attending either night of this significant Baltimore stop, make sure to plan ahead for those traffic and transportation considerations we discussed today. As always, thank you for being here, thank you for your continued support, and I'll see you in the next video.